All right, everyone, I should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case on YouTube. I'm having a very, very odd day with regards to tech. Okay, good. I am live. Now, I had to reconnect my account for some reason for YouTube purposes. I don't know exactly why. I guess every once in a while you just have to do the reconnect shuffle. I am not live on Rumble, so we don't have to make sure that's actually the case. So, if you know anyone, any clankers that mainly watch on Rumble, unfortunately today I can't stream there. This morning it was phenomenally slow, and then it didn't fully process my third video, my exclusive at all. So it's searchable on the site, but it's not actually there on my page. And now, after 5 minutes, I gave up waiting for the submission for the live stream. So I am only live on YouTube at the moment. How very sad. I do enjoy using Rumble to live stream, but today that's not actually the case. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. An enormous amount of news. By the way, I'd like to take a win first. I am now able to do community notes on Twitter. Community notes is where you can add context, etc. Basically a form of light fact checking to posts that are made on Twitter. As per the rules there, you can't be an asshole about it. But what I saw the other day, it only took me 24 hours, by the way, to get to the point where I can actually make my own community notes. I don't know if that's typical or not. Before that, you're reviewing notes, and it's helpful or it's unhelpful, sort of being a Janny, I suppose. And I have made my first community note. Out of prudence, I'm obviously not going to say what I fact checked, but I did, and it was successful. Within a few seconds, it was live. And Jesus Christ, fully half almost of all of the community notes there are nothing more than right and left wingers on U.S. politics bashing each other. It's not factual. It's not relevant in any way, shape, or form. I see things that get a community note that clearly don't need it. I see deliberately argumentative or even antagonistic community notes. There's clearly trolling going on there. As far as me, I wear my bias on my sleeve. I'm actually capable of suspending it for the purposes of actually making sure that things are factual. Now, of course, I don't care if something's satire. And by the way, there is a category in there where you can say, well, it's not actually misleading. It's clearly satire. No notes need to be applied to this. That is a note that you can actually give to the other note members. And I have no clue how many people are enabled. You do have to have Twitter Blue, your account's verified, proper phone, it works, etc. Good standing, etc. So probably less than 1 in 1,000 people has access at this point. Maybe they expedite it if you've been on there long enough and have a big enough audience, which would actually make sense. You've got some skin in the game. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Polyfrog64, just in, European Central Bank raises interest rates by 0.5 to 3.5. The financial sector is bleeding. We're in for some pain. Yeah, what a wonderful time. Potentially bringing the banks out from under the population. And you know that the small depositors will in the end get screwed. The government at some point, if there's enough failures, will have to inflate the currency to bail everything out. And then those deposits become worth a little bit less. They democratize the pain. Inky, hey Sticks, have some of my funny money. Don't put it in the bank. Yes, to Bats Bombastic, I am not on Rumble today because Rumble refuses to load the stream. I tried. I gave it 5 minutes, and I'm like, based on this morning, and it was having some problems, the live stream just won't function there. Even if I could get it up, probably it'd have like a half-hour delay or something. Clearly, there's either an update or a glitch going on. First news story, corroborating what I said days ago. Do you remember when I said that the Signature Bank, the Silvergate Bank, and SVB all going under in the same 24-hour period, to me, appeared to be linked, and the link was crypto and tech? Well, we now, the curtain has been pulled back. I did talk about this morning, but I'm going to reiterate it here, along with the uranium story from Libya, because it's so important. This is clearly an attack upon cryptocurrency, at least in part. Not completely, but in part, which had been rumored by people in the bank itself. Of course, the other day, I pointed it out when it was only a few hours after Signature Bank was taken over effectively by the government. What has happened is that now the prospective buyers that want to obtain Signature Bank, so TD comes in or Chase or something, they want to grab the bank. No crypto allowed, which is funny because less than 24 hours ago, the FDIC and other groups said, no, this has nothing to do with crypto. We don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, we just want to make sure that the bank is solvent. Well, according to the people in Signature Bank itself, including Barney Frank himself in person, according to them, it wasn't insolvent anyway. The FDIC came in to bully them over crypto holdings. So what ends up happening is that the person who takes over the bank is guaranteed not to be pro-crypto. They're not saying, hey, you have to liquidate the crypto that's in Signature Bank. That's not what they're saying, but it's a foregone conclusion. Because if you only allow people who don't do the crypto thing to take over Signature Bank, at this point, if there is no crypto in the holdings, if they don't do anything with an exchange, if they don't do anything with crypto in and of itself, you're guaranteed, you're looking at a bank that is much more traditionalistic in its filings and in its investment. And so the fact that they don't dabble with it at all means that probably the first thing they do is offload that component of Signature Bank and replace it with something else. So they'll get rid of the cryptocurrency. Very interesting. It's almost like I predicted it. Literally I did 3 days ago at this point. Let's see. Hair 2. Morning, Clankers. Picked up my spayed kitty this morning, and she's doing well. Good kitty. Rob S. says, clank. John DeSlot. Clank, 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 senora. Jody Irvin. That's called socialized pain. Yeah, exactly. They like to, the democracy and socialism, they do go hand in hand at this point. When you get the huddled masses together, what do they want? They want more free shit at the expense of literally everything else in society. Kaz C. Hi, Sticks. My mom passed recently, left me the house. Going to invest in some silver with the money. I would diversify beyond that. Disclaimer, this is not official investing advice. Never put all of your eggs in one basket, though, is pretty good advice overall. Silver's good. I hold silver. Can't remember exactly how much I have. I have coins, of course, some bars, little trinkets. I thought it was fun. I want to get a little silver skull, too. In fact, I'd like to get one that's life-sized. That'd be kind of cool, actually, when you think about it. But yeah, we've got a shit ton to talk about. I'm a little bit distracted, though, because I'm so used to having Rumble over to the side, and it's not there because I could not get the live stream to actually work. It decided to fuck off under the wheels of a bus. Next news story, again, a reiteration from this morning, but the two main news stories of the day, the crypto with Signature Bank, and then this story, I think are important enough to address as well in a live stream. Exclusive, tons of uranium missing from Libyan site, according to the IAEA. Yes, 2.5 tons of radioactive material has gone missing from a Libyan mining site. 2.5 tons. Now, the good news, this isn't yellow cake. This isn't kegs of fuel rods or something like that. This is uranium ore. That being said, it is still considerably radioactive enough to be used for potentially a weaponized purpose. There wouldn't be enough actual radioactive material there to, for example, make an atomic weapon. You wouldn't have nearly enough of it. Could you make a radiological weapon with it with very, very crude methods? Yeah, you could. You could take a giant explosive and you could vaporize that 2.5 tons of uranium ore and create a denial area, probably spanning multiple city blocks quite easily. It would amplify the effect of a large explosive beyond its normal capabilities, because then you've got radiation there for 1,000 years. You could semi-refine it. You could take some of the material, you could put it through a crushing process, semi-refine it, get something that's a little bit more pure uranium. Even if it's only 10%, be pretty bad. The unfortunate circumstance is we don't know who took it. We don't know why it's missing. The problem with Libya is the same problem that I identified in Afghanistan. And then this morning I talked about the overlap thereof. You have a very weak central government, technically two competing central governments, East and West. You have multiple powerful tribal warlords. You have multiple terrorist cells in the area. ISIS does still exist, although Libya is one of the few places that has major operations. You do have influence by Al-Qaeda, by Boko Haram, by Hezbollah, etc., etc. Basically, everyone wants to be in the area. There's oil there. There's uranium, etc. Well, people like these things if they want to do damage. The problem, therefore, is you have too many potential perps. Nobody knows exactly where it is, where it fucked off to. It's probably not even in the country at this point. Now, the saving grace is the possibility that it was misplaced. Just worker error. They said, well, I don't know. We don't have enough room on these pallets for this uranium ore. Put it in the cave over there, Sven. It's possible. That's the hope. Unfortunately, it's not likely. And it could be in terrorist hands right now. Again, a radiological weapon would be arguably more terrifying than a nuke in some ways. Imagine the public panic if a radiological weapon were deployed. Effectively, you get a fairly small area of damage, city block, couple city blocks, but then everyone within a 100-block radius has to evacuate because the radiation level is too high, pending decontamination. And it would be a lot cheaper than a nuke, very much cheaper. So it'd be, the hope is that such a weapon is never successfully deployed by some militant group or something like that. I have a feeling that people would go a little bit haywire if that happened. Unfortunately, it's possible. They could deploy it right in Libya. They could deploy it in Benghazi, for example, and again, potentially kill a bunch of people with a standard explosive and then salt the earth around that area, meaning you could empty out a large city. The city is there. The city is still standing. There's skyscrapers and gas stations and roads and all these things, but nobody can use it. You could deploy radiological weapons over arable land under the right circumstances and contaminate a shit ton of crops and cause hundreds of millions of dollars in damage, potentially. You look at East Palestine. The farmers there are doing testing, and there wasn't anything radiological in the train. Drennan, Trump, Warwick 24, make America clank again. Yeah, no thanks. I wouldn't wish that job on anyone. I would never want to move to DC. Mind of a Madman 69, clank, and I don't know what to do about that bank stuff. I have some silver and know nothing about crypto. Any direction I should loom into for advice? Silver is good. As far as getting into crypto, you can buy it on an exchange. Most of the crypto that I have was from donations. By the way, if I had been accepting donations years before, as I probably should have, I probably have a pretty good chunk of money lying around. As it is right now, it's like enough to buy a car, but it's not enough for a down payment on a home. It's sort of in that particular slot. I could have sold at peak and made, after taxes, of course, about 45 grand or thereabouts. That's a good hefty chunk of change. That's a whole median income for a year, for example. I'm still holding on to it, though. I'm not going to sell it off. I'm convinced, and this is, again, only my personal opinion. It's not investment advice. I am convinced it will rise back up. It's already been through hell and high water, and it's still there, so... Edine Sahutske. Okay, what is clank? Clank is the idea that I leave my spoon in my coffee cup when I'm drinking coffee or tea, for that matter, and that it makes a clanking noise. And I used to do that frequently on my videos. I still do sometimes, but I've stopped. Generally, I've stopped drinking on video or eating. Captain Cannabis, good morning from the Goodyear, Arizona, Trump Lake, 2024. Hi, Alex. Mr. X 1776 Sticks, look up Tom Luongo. This banking thing is more complex than crypto. It is a war between the Fed and the ECB. Yeah, possibly, but I'm fixated on that subcomponent of it, partially because I hold crypto. Next news story, the Bidenomic bank collapse in focus. This is from the Federalist, so it's not exactly an unbiased source. Democrats deserve plenty of blame for the banking crisis. Joe Biden's partisanship helped make Silicon Valley Bank failure possible. Now, it points this out, and this is the only part of the article I wanted to reiterate. If we're going to blame the Fed, and interest rates for what we're seeing with SVB, et cetera, for the current banking crisis, those rates were not in a bubble. That is, in a vacuum, there was no reason to raise rates. They would have stayed at historic lows. They were raised to deal with inflation. Where did the inflation come from? See, the problem is that most of it is from Biden. I know that it's fashionable and hip to say, well, I used to vote for Trump, but then he caused all this inflation. Well, no, it's not at this point. We're 2 years into Biden's stewardship. At this point, it's time to mature, put on your big boy pants, and realize that Bidenomics is a failure. There was a spike in inflation, and I've admitted to this multiple times, including in debates and interviews, that Trump was partially responsible for the inflation rate that we see right now. Although it was necessary at the time to prevent absolute disaster, to declare a state of emergency due to the pandemic, and I don't mean disaster in the epidemiological sense, I mean as in the public starts bringing out the guillotines and starts going completely crazy. While it was necessary, it did open the door to blue state governors locking things down excessively and helping cause a situation where so many businesses were on the line, we had no choice further but to bail them out. That caused inflation. That spike happened long ago. Since then, every other bit of inflation has been Bidenflation. It's the result of the shitty transport system that the United States employs. We see Buttigieg's chops with regards to that on a regular basis with East Palestine and other things. Backlogs in shipping, not just, offshore, but onshore as well. The blue state lockdownerism that continued far too long, hampering business further. Certainly shortages and then increased demand, and the overheating of the economy by multiple stimuli by Biden as well. Of course, the Infrastructure Act and the America Bullshit Plan and all of these other things to the tune of well over $1 trillion. It is at this point Biden's fault, and that's part of the reason. He caused higher inflation and he made it sticky, so it's not just, hey, it's transient, it goes away like Biden originally claimed. There's a reason that the former White House press secretary was let go of. That's probably part of the reason. Karine Jean-Pierre, not necessarily the greatest wordsmith, but she didn't have that particular baggage. At this point, though, it is largely Biden's fault. Not completely, but largely. It's about time to recognize that. And there's some people out there that need to take their meds and mature. They need to slit a hot log. Eyes wide open are yours. Pushing a digital dollar. Yes, the push for a centrally banked currency that is digital is definitely, in my opinion, part of what we're seeing right now. Tracy Ranger, my apologies, sending $50, by the way. Thank you. I'm in the San Bernardino Mountains that were hit by a freak blizzard 3 weeks ago, and there are still people trapped and dying in their homes due to systemic failure and rampant corruption of our county and state. It's disgusting. Not a surprise, actually. I mean, California's had some problems with regards to state responses to disasters in the past. I would say, if you're living in the right part of the mountains, it's sort of like living in the Green Mountains, though. Once in a while, you will get a blizzard. Vermonters know this well, and our mountains aren't as big as yours. They're much older and more decomposed. They're more like giant hills when you think about it. Pretty fun. Tyler Morrison, if Lake isn't VP, I predict press secretary. Carrie Lake may end up in a cabinet position. I'm still skeptical as to whether it's true that Trump has put her on the top of the list for a running mate. There are others that are in that same A tier, in my opinion. Secretary of State would make sense, or any other role potentially. She knows that staying loyal if he wins will get her a spot. She's talented enough to take such a position. Next news story, San Francisco reparations idea, $5 million per black person. Yes, it keeps growing. The debt that is owed by people who never owned slaves to people who were never slaves keeps getting fucking bigger. San Francisco, according to AP. Payments of $5 million to every eligible black adult, the elimination of personal debt and tax burdens, guaranteed annual incomes of at least $97,000 for 250 years, and homes in San Francisco for just $1 a family. These are some of the recommendations made by a city-appointed reparations committee tasked with a thorny question. What would it take to atone for the centuries of U.S. slavery, which, by the way, was never in California? It was not a slave state. And generations of systemic racism, which doesn't exist, but okay. They continue to keep black Americans on the bottom rungs of health, education, and economic prosperity and overrepresented in prisons and homeless populations. Well, we could ask the Irish people. They seem to do all right after being indentured servants and often impressed into the military and having multiple other social problems for the better part of a century. Somehow those Irish, they never asked for reparations. Very interesting. I guess it's that stoic culture or something. Hey, All of my ancestors suffered. If I weren't suffering, I wouldn't be happy. Now hand me that fucking potato over there. I guess it's just the Irish way. Basically, being miserable is the only way to make you happy. It's like that song by Garbage, Only Happy When It Rains. That's basically, that might as well be the next Irish national anthem. Or you'd think of people who came over from China. They were frequently worked to death, of course, on rail lines and other things. They had their little ghettoized areas, and a handful of them became very wealthy in the mercantile trade, but most of them lived in complete squalor. And there was no help for them because they weren't even citizens. They were considered effectively to be animals by the nativists at the time, and they were quite profuse out west when they were building the train lines. Interesting, very, very strange. At first hearing, before the city's Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, could offer a glimpse of the board's appetite for advancing a reparations plan that would be unmatched nationwide in specificity and breadth. Critics have slammed it as financially and politically impossible. You don't have to be a critic of the concept to realize that none of this would be legal. One conservative analyst estimated that each non-black family in the city would have to pay at least $600,000. Well, I mean, if you're living in San Francisco, you deserve to suffer. So who gives a fuck? And at this point, virtually anyone with any intelligence has moved out of San Francisco. I know there may be a couple of clankers there. I'm just going to, don't bother telling me your story. I'll just assume that you have no other choice, like due to work or family or something. Really, though, if you have the opportunity to leave such a shithole city, who hasn't already done that? Leave them insolvent and let them collapse. Let them become the West Coast Detroit. Torchwood Gal, fairly new to your insightful channel. Clank on. Thank you. Trash Panda, Biden is worse than Nero. At least Nero helped during the fire in Rome. Him playing a fiddle while it burned is a myth. Yeah, potentially it was. Nero, along with Caligula, actually, and a few others. Over time, they're realizing that maybe the reports of the ivory towerists back then aren't 100%. Because, of course, if you don't like the philosopher class, basically, the historians and stuff, and you prefer to be more populistic, even if you really do care about the general population, by the way, they would invent things about you after you died. This happens to people that are still alive these days. We have actually fallen further from ancient Roman standards when it comes to truthiness. Thomas Conservative, I just wanted to hear you say my name when you read this. Worth it. Okay, Tom. Eyes wide open are yours. Cash, tangible assets, gold is king. Yeah, gold is fun, but I prefer silver myself. I think it looks nicer. It's sort of, the vibe is better for me. Boycott Warhammer Plus. Don't be a Janny, Sticks. They work for free. Yeah, I'm basically the equivalent of a 4chan Janny now on Twitter. Other than the fact that, of course, I don't have to go to a moderator to leave a publicly available community note. Can't wait to see if there's any shit that erupts over the one that I already made. It may have been on a Marianne Williamson post because she keeps ranting about Ron DeSantis trying to attack bloggers' First Amendment rights, and she is objectively wrong. And then again, if I'm fact-checking something there, I'm going to use a source. It's not going to be a weird out there source that won't be accepted. I'm going to keep it on the tame side because, I mean, my job is not to troll. I troll on plenty of other sites. Twitter, if I want to troll, it's not going to be in a community note. It's going to be in a tweet. Westfield 90. What has the GOP changed since 2020? Midterms showed that. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. GOP will lose in 24. That may be why Donald Trump is now backing mail-in ballots and ballot harvesting, actually, efforts. He's trying to put together a thing with that. Bannon, I believe, is involved. Mind of a Madman 69. My mom's side of the family freed slaves after the dad's side of the family got over here after the Civil War, but before World War I, and you know 100%, and you are 100% about the Irish. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be a long-term stereotype, but there's always a kernel of truth to a stereotype now, isn't there? And Kelly 007. I hope San Francisco passes this. The people deserve exactly what they voted for. Well, what they would get is a court injuncting it. It will never actually happen. Transylvania 90, as a Romanian, I demand reparations from the Ottomans. Yeah, as somebody who has 1/16 supposedly native heritage, why doesn't the U.S. government just give me a boatload of money? I don't want to live on a reservation, though, or something like that. Just give me my little cabin and 100 grand, and we'll call it a day. Urdarbrun. I have no clue how that's actually pronounced. My apologies. What are the 3 best states and the 3 worst states? It really depends more on county. For instance, I like Vermont a lot. Rutland is pretty cool, although it's got its own problems. Do I like Burlington? Do I like Essex County? No, I don't like the aesthetic. I don't like the culture. It's different. You look at Texas. There's a huge goddamn difference between living in the outskirts of Dallas and living in South Padre or going out to El Paso or something. As far as aggregated overall, no, that's a hard one. Well, I mean, DC doesn't have statehood, so we can't count them. I'd say Maryland is on the top 3 worst list. I would say California would be an obvious one. I don't know. Massachusetts maybe would probably be number 3. Well, the red states have problems too, though. I mean, Alabama's not exactly fun in the sun for a lot of people living there. For the best, New Hampshire would be on top. Texas, I think. And I don't know. Just because of climate, I'd say maybe Virginia. I know the politics may suck to some extent, although it's kind of sort of still a swing state. But climatically, I think if I could choose any climate in the United States, it'd probably be the middle of Virginia overall. Gristle lumps, screw gold, ammo is king. Yes, lead is technically more valuable than gold because lead can get you all of the gold if you know how to use it. Thomas Weiser, plane to Europe in 10 days. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. Oscar Goldman, Steve Bannon is QAnon. No, QAnon is a LARP that was developed by liberals to distract conservative groups. It worked in part. The Night Cleric, took your advice and have lost 70 pounds and am learning 3D sculpting. Thanks for all the content. Good on you. Unless you're already thin, in which case don't become Eugenia Cooney. I don't want that on my back. I'm just joking. Yeah, 3D sculpting. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, everyone should learn a new skill. Just something, it doesn't have to even be profitable. Just for your own interest and to have something to do, find what you like and preferably overlap that with what you're good at. And if it overlaps with profitability, at least situationally, all that much better. You're an entrepreneur. Welcome to independence. Eyes wide open are yours. Conspiracy theorists were right. My pronouns, they told us so. The next news story is a weird one. Apparently, Bolton is not running for the presidency. He has reiterated now that he has not actually formally decided to throw his hat in the ring. Now, this is weird because I seem to recall reading a fucking quote effectively, in fact, seeing a video clip where John Bolton effectively said that he was running for the presidency. The fact that he hadn't signed the paperwork, it doesn't matter. If you say, well, just I think that I'm going to get in the race. Okay, you're in the race. Congratulations. Apparently, though, he's not really announcing his run. I'm thinking that he got cold feet because Nikki Haley got in and Bolton is no longer even mentioned in the news stories. Now, this makes perfect sense to me. I speculate that Bolton only wanted to get into the presidential race, the GOP primaries, to get attention. He wants to sell more copies of his book. He wants to get on stage or on an interview sometimes and plug his book. He wants to make moolah. He knows that he can't win. But then once Haley and Ramaswamy got in, nobody even talked about him. He looked at the news reporting and everyone was saying, well, there are only 2 candidates that are running against Donald. And he's like, what the fuck? Fuck you. I'm in the race. I basically announced months ago. What the fuck are you people talking about? I was the first one to announce a challenge to Trump, but it didn't get him any attention. If you're not getting any attention, there's no reason to continue the pretense of running. The Copper Owl. Can I get a Rumble shout out for Reamers, Rangera, and my bud Brickosaurus? We do our own Nerf vids, but I make exclusive Pokemon and political rants. Yes, although Rumble right now is having problems. I just put that up on the screen because people might not know how to pronounce Reamers, Rangera, and Brickosaurus. Mountain Gnome. California reparations will make the dollar worth less than toilet paper for the whole country. Civil War much? Yeah, but it won't happen. And I covered that also as my exclusive today. If you're watching on YouTube, if you don't watch me elsewhere, you'll have to see that video on BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, or Minds.com. What I pointed out is that the whole thing is a farce. It's effectively Marxists just trying to start trouble. They know that reparations aren't going to happen. They don't even want them to happen. Most of the Marxists pushing it, they're white lily white gated community dwellers and penthouse dwellers. These are the trust fund kids with dentist parents and shit like that. They know that it's not going to happen. They don't want it. They see black people as pawns. And so they pretend to be their allies. Next news story. Who is still inside the metaverse, searching for friends in Mark Zuckerberg's deserted fantasy land? Now, I wanted to make 2 points here. It's not really a mainline news story. Number one, this article is fucking hilarious because it's so over the top. Link in the description, archived, of course. This is from New York Mag, talking about some experiences in the metaverse, which is apparently overrun with kids saying stupid shit on their parents' account, and empty worlds where there is literally nothing. Now, for those that don't remember, the metaverse is basically a three-dimensional overlap. It's a virtual reality sort of world, and you can build things in there and have an avatar and interact with other people using the Quest headset or whatever it's called. The problem is nobody uses it. There are only a few tens of thousands of people that are actually there. It reminds me of something. And I remember it was a big thing when I was a kid, when I was in, I don't know, high school, or not even necessarily high school at that point. I think I was like 15, 16. Second Life. It reminds me of Second Life. Second Life is the exact same idea as this shit, except that it's not virtual reality. They would have been better off buying Second Life and making it VR and simply having the shit there to begin with, absorbing the user base, because that would probably be more people than are using Meta. That would have been a better idea. Or they could have branched out to allow people to explore the metaverse outside of virtual reality. But you can't do that now, can you? You have to get their proprietary headset and shit like that. It was doomed to fail. It was never going to work. There was never any viability. There's no reason for it. And the reasons why you would want to create like a VR overlap for the world, the pragmatic reasons are simply missing from it. It's basically like a VR Pokemon Go sort of situation. It makes no sense. By the way, to people that are beating off on Second Life actually back in the day was pretty fun. It's lost most of its users now, but I think it still may have more active users than the metaverse has. I think that's possible. How many people keep using Second Life? Back in the day, it was funny. Especially when you'd see people doing like random sexual shit and saying the most off-the-wall bizarre things, and they had built things that made no sense, and I don't know. It was easy to troll, though. Sometimes you would just stand in the wrong location and people would get mad. The Southern V, watched your video on reparations. I know as black men, nothing is free in life, but anytime I talk to my liberal friends and politics come up, I say, where is my reparation, just to see them melt. It's a good idea. Black privilege, being able to make white liberals melt down completely on order. Next news story, Biden to sign executive order to require background checks on more gun sales. The executive order will increase background checks and prevent firearms dealers without licenses from selling guns. So in other words, things you're not allowed to do already have been redundantly reiterated in an executive order. Here's the problem. An EO cannot disenfranchise the Second Amendment. If legislation has difficulty right now standing up, especially under the onslaught of post-Bruin cases, an EO would be thrown out even faster. It would be thrown out faster than the class clown when he decides to bring a small explosive to school. Not going to happen. Other than that, the EO does nothing. So if it does anything at all, and I think Cornine pointed this out of all people, if it does something, it's illegal and it's injuncted. Otherwise, it literally does nothing. And that's my thought on it. Look through the executive order here. What exactly is it meant for? You already have de facto universal background checks in the United States. Go to a gun store and buy a gun. What happens? You have to file out a form. You're going through a background check. I mean, other than buying some 200-year-old musket or something, a collector's item, where does that not apply? Where else, unless you're in the back alley and you're getting it from a crack addict or something like that, a stolen weapon. You're going to get a background check in order to actually do that. So if his executive order literally does anything at all, it's meaningless. If it doesn't do anything, it's clearly meaningless. What's the fucking point? And here's the point. He wants to con his fans into thinking that he did something great. Well, we announced the biggest gun control package in modern American history last year. And now I'm going further. No, you're not. You're literally doing nothing. It doesn't do anything. That's the whole point. He's conning people. He's conning the leftoids. He knows he can't deliver on student loan debt relief. He knows he hasn't delivered on energy, by the way. The Willow project just went through. That was announced the other day. He stabbed the leftoids in the back while also pissing everyone else off by setting aside a bunch of other land that wouldn't be drilled in an exploratory manner for gas and oil and so forth. He's been stabbing the left in the back now for 2 years, and a lot of them still fucking voted for his stupid party. They are the most dumb individuals in the United States. They've been completely goddamn brainwashed and conned. Go off and vote for Jill Stein and the Greens. She won't win, but you're not winning with Joe either, are you? I mean, yeah. So gun stores have to do a background check. Well, they already do. By the way, the cat just took a stress shit, so she has a habit of digging around to excessive periods after using the bathroom for some reason. Literally, their bathroom was just changed this morning, so it's not because there's a profusion of shit lying around in it. She's crazy. Grevin Share, that metaverse article made me depressed for the writer halfway through. Also, Virginia, the best Commonwealth. The night clerk, don't worry, was 350 pounds, now 280. Goal is 240. Good goal. Congratulations. You'll live a lot longer and feel a lot better as the result of that. I don't know how you're accomplishing it, but keep it up because it's clearly working. Good on you. Clank approved. Thomas Weiser, I heard a psych professor once say that alcohol, tobacco, and adult entertainment will always prosper regardless of the times and legality. Yeah, you can either have a black market or you can have a free market. It's still going to be a market. Kristen Kelly, $4.99. No comment. Thank you very much. By the way, please send no more super chats. I've got one more story here. I'm going to keep it a little bit on the short side today. I actually went out for well, not a driver's test, but for driver's practice. I'm going to be getting a Dutch driver's license too, so that I can have a car on 2 continents. When I get back to the other continent, my Avalon probably needs a lot of work. I'm not looking forward to that because it's definitely got 4 on the floor and would not pass inspection at this point, sitting there for an extended period of time. The final news story of the day, right here in the Netherlands, speaking of them. Exit poll shows Dutch coalition will lose 8 seats in Senate as Triple B becomes the biggest party. BBB. Big black something. The first national... I won't go through that part. Never mind. Anyway, long story short, there's a newly incepted party. It's for the farmers. It's literally the Farmers' Party in the Netherlands. They're now arguably the largest political bloc in the entire Netherlands. Meanwhile, some of the other coalitions have basically disappeared. FVD, for example, they basically don't exist. VVD actually lost a couple of seats. PVV, that's Wilders' party, they lost one. Hemorrhage by FVD, virtually all of Baudet's people becoming Dutch Farmer Party members, it seems. 15 seats in the Senate, making them at least singularly the largest party there. That's according to exit polls. Now, I think that there's still a little bit of wiggle room when the final tally comes in, but they're the largest, or at least very close, and the second largest. This party barely existed recently. A couple of years ago, it didn't exist. It's basically the tractor protest party. This shows me that what happened in the UK under UKIP is happening again. I think it possibly leads to an exit movement. Whether it's successful or not remains to be seen. And I talked years and years ago, I think the first time I addressed it was 2013 or thereabouts, that the old center, because it can no longer represent the dynamic interests of a new wave of population, inevitably tends to become more authoritarian or do a lot of grifting and deal making and alienates the population and dies out and is replaced. What you want is to replace it with something that at the very least maintains stability. In other cases, you get something that doesn't. Now, Triple B here is getting castigated as far right. They're extremists. Oh my God, all of these people with tractors. Yes, not wanting to be forced to sell your land is far right now. You know, hey, my family owned this plot for the last 4 or 5 centuries. I would like to remain here and farm. No, says Mark Rutte, you're not allowed to do that because the EU came in and made new regulations and we're running afoul on them because of nitrogen runoff. So you have to sell your farm to us. Don't worry, we'll give you a bit over spot or something. The EU is really getting goddamn close to fracturing because it's pissed off most of Eastern Europe with migrant crises, and it's now pissing off parts of Western Europe with this sort of bullshit, leading to a situation where the Dutch, who are very easygoing people overall, unless there's a soccer match recently. Oh, sorry, football. European soccer, whatever, tend to be fairly easygoing. There's not a whole lot of societal upheaval. They're friendly people, actually. I don't know why some people consider them unfriendly. I have a feeling that Southern Europeans who are upset they weren't served a 5-course meal when they were a guest at someone's house. Anyway, when they have displaced the entire political order and granted largest party, or at least very close second largest party status to something that didn't exist 2 years ago and is basically leave the fucking farms alone, don't you think that you may have gone a bridge too far? And then look at France right now, just not far to the south, just through Belgium, whatever. They're facing problems right now because Macron is overseeing the raising of the pensioners' age. So you can't get your pension till, I think it was 64. It used to be 62. You may consider it economically necessary, but again, you've pissed off a lot of people. The old center is having more and more problems with actually governing, which was predictable. In the wake of Brexit especially, it became predictable that it would spread elsewhere for different reasons. Of course, there's no Brexit-like movement based on solely membership in the EU. It's about a specific abuse, a specific excess in this case. And part of that ire is not anti-EU, it's anti-Mark Rutte's coalition. By the way, his coalition went from already being a minority movement that had to do negotiating to being even less of a force. It was something like, I think they had 40% of the seats in their coalition before. Now it's 30 in their general core coalition. So now they have to either suck the cock of the far right or the far left. And that'll hasten their demise further because they will inevitably piss off one side of the population to the other. Look, in my opinion, to Rutte to generally move to the left and work with green links and so forth. That's really going to clear up those tractor protests, my dude, when you have to negotiate with people who think that you're not going far enough by confiscating 3,000 farms. Javen, thanks, Sticks, for being you. 555. HM, your cats have been out of control in your videos lately. Yeah, what else is new? Flufferboy 2004, financial crisis got you down? Relax with some music. Long walks on YouTube and Bandcamp, or better yet, long walks music on Rumble. Clank. Jet ski, Sticks, are you aware SpaceX Starship is being built and launched from Boca Chica, just across the channel from SPI? The Valley's economy is on rocket fuel at this point. Nothing wrong with that. Anyway, I think that I'm going to go offline. Again, I realize this was a shorter stream, but I'm a little bit on the tired side because I'm not used to driving anymore because I haven't done it in so long. And, you know, it takes a little bit out of me because I'm not 100% on Euro driving. United States, everything's perfectly fine. The rules here are a little bit different, like the right of the right, specifically priority situations. Who goes first here? I don't fucking know sometimes. I have to listen to the fucking instructor and learn it, I guess, by hand. Hopefully I don't run anyone over. Although someone did almost ram into us, actually, when we were out, right in this neighborhood. Some idiot, some retard came swerving around the corner, and he was clipping the corner, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to go wide. If there's another object there, you will hit it otherwise. And he was easily speeding. This is a 30 zone. He was going 40, 45. He narrowly avoided hitting my friend. Oh, boy, wouldn't that be something? Hey, you get back home. And, yeah, I just did my driving stuff. Yeah, we got hit. It wasn't my fault, though. I know that I'm the unexperienced one, but thankfully, the other person will have to deal with their insurance company first. That's about all. Peace out.